What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another really exciting knife review slash overview to do with you guys. This is the Purvis Knives Production Xerx. This is a beautiful knife. I'm very excited about this knife. I have a lot to say about it. This knife was provided for review, once again, by my good buddy at ShakerMT1970 on Instagram. Be sure to give him a follow. So, over the next 2 weeks, you guys are going to be getting a whole bunch of content that was pre-recorded, and that's because, like many people, I've got plans for Christmas, but I didn't want that to change the flow of content, so you guys can still expect the same type of content, at least one upload a day, combination knife reviews, overviews, unboxings, and discussion stuff, and a whole bunch of stuff. But during this time, I've been messing with the lighting, and I've been complaining about it. And again, for the next 2 weeks, you're going to see videos with varying lighting, some brighter, some darker, where I'm like, this is how I'm going to keep it forever. No, this is how I'm going to keep it forever. I'm done messing with it. Well, I actually just recorded this video yesterday because I found an application that allows me to control not the light around me, but actually how my phone deals with lighting coming in, which means I can dim or brighten. I can customize the lighting for each individual video, which is a massive blessing. As you guys can see here, we are just about at exactly the right amount of light. This is perfect, and this particular knife should be coming through absolutely crisp in full definition, and nothing I don't believe should be washed out or those little specks, those little fuzzies. I think I've eliminated as many of those as possible. And this is great because I can adjust the brightness for each individual knife, and I am so happy about that. So I just wanted to kind of clarify, when you watch Knife Guy this weekend, when you watch some reviews next week, you're going to be like, what's going on with the brightness? It's because everything's pre-recorded and I've been messing with it and freaking out over it. So anyways, if you are new to my channel or you've been around for a long time, either way, if you would like to help support me, I do have a Patreon. You can follow the link down in the description and have a look around. You can get some cool stickers like this Metal Complex logo sticker or my Metal Knight helmet sticker at some of the lower tiers. You can also gain access to my once-a-week Patreon exclusive content by joining any tier. Either way, no matter what tier you join, you will get a free shout out if you want it. I can plug your Instagram, I can plug your YouTube channel, or I can say something funny or ridiculous. Whatever you want, as long as it's appropriate for YouTube, that's completely fine with me, and the support would absolutely mean the world to me. So check it out if you'd like. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Such a beautiful knife. From tip to scale, we're looking at a little over 8 inches. It's like 8.1, not quite 8 1/4. It's like 8.1 inches overall. Blade length, we're looking at almost exactly 3.5 inches, and your cutting edge is about 3 1/4. Those are some nice measurements. That's really, really nailing it for me. In some places, it's going to be a little bit too big for some people, but for me, that's just fantastic. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1? Rat Model 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall and doing a great job of demonstrating why it's so important that I'm able to dim the lights. You see that? Maximum reflectivity on this, and it's not blinding my viewers, which is fantastic. I really like that. Up against the nearly equally reflective Spyderco PM2, once again, hopefully not blinding my viewers anymore, coming in at 8.3 inches overall, so still a little bit bigger there, but it's a good size comparison. How about the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in exactly 8 inches, or actually, I've recently found out it's actually like 8.1 inches overall, so this is a perfect size comparison. These two are literally exactly the same length. The Griptilian a little bit fatter, a little bit taller. How about up against the Benchmade Bug Out? Benchmade Bug Out coming in at 7.5 inches overall. A little bit shorter there. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? Well, like many modern titanium flippers running on bearings, the action is perfect. It's exactly what you'd expect. But this thing is, in my opinion, it's above and beyond. I mean, this is the best example of a frame-locked flipper that's a production knife, I think, that's out there. The relationship between, I want to emphasize this properly, the relationship between the flipper tab, the pivot, and the mass of the blade is perfect. The position of the flipper tab is perfect. The shape here, the jimping, the location of this, the corners, everything's knocked down. The landing zone is perfect. The detent strength is perfect. Medium heavy. It has that satisfying bam. Whether you want to preload it like this, or you want to do more of a light switch and push your finger up here. Either way, it doesn't matter. The detent is absolutely phenomenal. There is no double clutch, meaning you can push this down here, and the point where where the flipper meets your fingernail, it's already past the detent ball. It's absolutely perfect. This feels more organic. I mean, it's a bold thing to say that it's the most perfect flipper. I'm saying there's a whole bunch of other flippers out there, titanium frame lock flippers, that are doing this exactly right as well. But what we have here is yet another example of absolute perfection. Sometimes it's a weird ergonomic line that throws things off. It's a poorly positioned flipper. You know, it's a subpar detent. It's weird friction. And sometimes, knives get almost all that right. They get one thing a little but it's still a great flipper. This gets everything exactly right. Everything is exactly the way it should be. And on top of that, you do have, with a little bit of encouragement, a fall shut action that will undoubtedly turn into a full free drop after Harry decides to use this for a while. This is organic. It's organic by definition, meaning I instinctively know what to do with it, and it's a really, really good feeling. Did we weigh it? Let's go ahead and weigh it. So what we're looking at here for materials, we're looking at contoured machined titanium. There is some milling on the inside, and we have a blade stock thickness of, I'm going to guess, probably 155 thousandths. Yeah, it looks to be about 150 thousandths there. Let's go ahead and weigh that. It's not going to be super duper heavy because the mass of the blade is not going to be the same as a typical 150,000 stock thick blade, because we have this swedge up here removing a lot of the material that would be there if it were a flat. So anyways, overall weight coming in at a completely understandable 4.09 ounces. With a lot of people, they have their own preferences. Like with me, I kind of enjoy a little bit of additional heft. Anything between 4 and 6.5 ounces or so is preferable. A lot of people have to go by the whole ounce and inch thing, and a lot of people go by the old nut and fancy standard of anything under 4 ounces is good. Whatever your preferences are, this is going to be completely acceptable to a lot of people. And I think that's a fantastic weight that they've achieved, considering you are looking at a full-size, full titanium knife. Absolutely. Let's take a look at this blade. What we have here is a beautifully finished compound ground blade. There is slight curvature. It looks like this is perfectly straight, but there's slight curvature this way, so I'm hesitant to call it a trailing point. I'm not sure. But we definitely have a compound grind. We have hollow and then flat, which is both aesthetically appealing and very functional. It gets very thin down here behind the edge, and that's awesome. You do have, reasonable durability or reasonable thickness carried out to about 90%. This isn't a flat, so it's not carrying the maximum thickness of the blade out here, but some pretty darn good thickness, translating into what I would imagine would be reasonable durability out there at the tip, so that's nice. And of course, we have the flat ground part of the tip there, so that's also nice. This coating on here, or it's not a coating, it's just a finish, but it reminds me of an NP3 coating on a firearm, and I don't know anything about firearms. All I know is that is a nickel-based coating, and it has a similar sort of matte satin finish to it. It's just really, really appealing. I wish we'd see this more often. I've only seen it on a few knives a few times on this channel, and I've only handled a few knives total that have that finish on there. It is so good looking. Not everybody's going to like it, but I like it. Here's the other cool thing. A finish like this is really going to show if there are flaws or wonkiness in the lines, because it's so defined. You don't have anything else. You don't have ultra reflectivity or tumbling marks drawing your eyes away from any flaws in the lines, and there are none. You can see here there are no flaws in the lines anywhere. The cutting edge is perfect all the way through. The up by the swedge, everything is nice. It's also nicely knocked down anywhere. I don't have any areas where it's catching my fingernail. It's just wonderful. It's so good. Like I said, the edge is absolutely perfect. Has that nice glassy feel to it. What we have on the front here is the A Purvis logo, which is cool. I like it. It's not overdone. It's just there. And then we have CPM 20 CV and number 43 of 240 on the other side. That's great. There doesn't need to be any more or any, obviously I always prefer a sterile blade, but there doesn't need to be any more than that. And I think that's just fine. As you saw there, this is a numbered knife. These were numbered in production, and I understand, that's an issue right now. A lot of people are kind of on one side of the fence or the other about that, and I truthfully don't know where I stand on that. on one hand, I can understand people's frustrations because it's like, hey, we all want this. If it's really, really good, we all want to get our hands on it. It kind of seems like you're limiting the production in an attempt to get them to sell out immediately. That could be the case with some makers. I have no idea if that's the case with A. Purvis. It could also be that that person is only capable of making so much and that they plan to make more runs, but they're going to change up maybe the different finishes or the different textures that are available on the handles, or maybe a different blade shape, maybe a different blade grind. You know, we don't know. On top of that, I'd have to imagine as a maker, sometimes if you are, you know, limited in what you're able to produce at the same time, like for example, Rick Hinder or Spyderco or Benchmade, they can make a whole bunch of different types of things at the same time, so they don't have to limit production. This is just me guessing. I'm not going to get into the drama of it because, like I said, I'm not on one side of the fence or the other. I can see both sides, you know. So, anyways, what I was saying is maybe, you know, a maker might do a limited production run of one type of knife to ensure that he can sell X amount before he decides to switch it up to just, you know, sort of keep the livelihood of making this knife going, and at the same time, you know, serve the wants and needs of his customers. I don't know. You know, I get that. Now, on the other hand, I also kind of understand just liking being a consumer who's purchasing something that has some exclusivity to it. I kind of like that, you know, and I know a lot of people are going to jump at me and be like, you shouldn't think like that, or I don't think like that, so you're a bad person. Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of you who know exactly what I'm talking about. There is something to purchasing a numbered knife and being happy that you were able to get in there and get it. And whether you plan to use it or not, it doesn't matter. People can do whatever they want with it, but there is a joy in owning something that you know there's only a limited amount of. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, it sucks because you can't pre-order these anymore. You can't get in and do the pre-order. As of this moment in this video, I read that there are 100 or so of these going out to some common retailers that we're all familiar with. So if you're watching this video within a couple of weeks, you know, check the date on the video. There's a chance you'll be able to jump out to one of those retailers and pick one of these up. If you're watching this video 2 months, 6 months, a year in the future, probably not. You're probably going to be stuck with the secondary market. So these were $280. I know I'm not into the meat and potatoes of the review yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say $280 is an absolutely fair price for this. And the reason I'm telling you this right now is because very soon, anybody who's interested in this knife will probably find out, I can't find this knife anywhere. And it's because this was a limited production knife. So I'm telling you that so you know, originally this was $280. So for whatever reason you're looking at these on the secondary market and somebody's asking $350 for it, no. I would say, no, that's not a fair price. $280 all day. Definitely this is a $280 knife. But you know, if it ends up that because it was limited, the secondary market's blowing the prices up, try to avoid those incredibly high prices. Anyways, moving on here, we have an absolutely perfect handle shape. The handle shape is perfect. It creates a perfect ergonomic experience. It's a combination of the lines, the palm swell, the contouring, the chamfering that's done all the way around the outside. Everything is nicely knocked down. It's just absolutely perfect. You have nice jimping up here, nice lock-in behind the flipper tab, which is also acting as a finger guard. They knew what they were doing here. This is perfect. I have no complaints about this whatsoever. You guys know how much I love textured titanium. That texturing does offer actual, you can hear it. It actually does offer traction. That's great. That's great that I can lock into it despite it being titanium, a normally slippery material to have as a scale. We have a beautiful and perfectly machined pivot collar there. That's anodized blue. You can also get them anodized purple, and I believe there's a black version of this available, or there was. And then you have the titanium pivot there. Let's go ahead and check that real quick. Get out my handy-dandy WIA bit selector that I always get out. T7. I'm going to guess it's a T8. You guys hear me talk about this a lot, but these are incredibly inexpensive items, both the WIA bit selector and the magnetic WIA bit driver. Very inexpensive, but just perfect for breaking down your knives and taking care of them. If you'd like to check those out, those are down in the description, as well as a lot of the really nice knives that I talk about on the channel every day, and some of the budget knives that I talk about every day. So whatever your itch is, you're looking for a new knife maintenance item, or, you know, EDC tool, whatever, I've got links down in the description, nicely sorted out. So check that out if you'd like to. Anyways, let's go ahead and check the pivot size. Come on now. Bumping my camera, sorry about that. Yeah, that's T8. And screw those, look to be T8 too. Yep, T8. I had a suspicion when I looked at those, when I unboxed it. That's just perfect. That's how knives should be. T8 pivot, T8 body. Why? Because T8 is large enough that it's going to be durable, both in terms of the bit and the screw head, and you don't have to change your tool out between the pivot and the handle screws. On top of that, there's just the pivot and 2 handle screws back here. So, like I went over and over and over again on my quest for the perfect budget knife series and my quest for the perfect folding knife series, that's ideal because you have limited hardware to take out of this if you want to break it down. We have a perfect backspacer. I could do with just flat like this, or even a gear pattern might have looked nice. I'm sure some people would prefer one way or the other, but I think this just looks perfect. It was machined perfectly. It's awesome. It's going to be plenty strong for a sandwich construction like this. And then you have 2 more body screws on the other side. That's perfect. That's how knives should be. That's just an absolutely perfect way to do this. I'm so happy with that. I love the pocket clip. It's very simple. They did not decide to texture it, which I thought was weird at first, and I thought, nah, you know what, that might make it kind of mesh in too well and make it kind of bland. It's kind of nice at seeing the smooth surface contrast with this textured surface, so I like that. It's also slightly contoured and does not create a hot spot at all. You guys are probably thinking, isn't that tip there a little bit pokey? I'm sure you could be using this knife in a way that would dig in a little bit, but really no. They actually did knock that down quite a bit, and it just looks great. This side is otherwise pretty much the same. There is no position for the pocket clip other than right hand tip up though, so sorry lefties, unless he makes a left-handed version in the future. We have another pivot adjustment side over here. Most modern knives do have something inside the pivot to keep it from free spinning, but I have no idea if that's the case in this knife. We do have another T8 steel lock bar insert screw. Steel lock bar insert does double as the over travel stop. So that's great. We've got perfect centering and no blade play up, down, left, or right. The stop pin is on the inside. It actually does follow the blade. You can see it following the blade around there and locking out. It does work the same way as some of those external stop pins that I've shown in the past that I really like on the Hinder XM18. I like this setup because it braces on the frame and acts as pressure mitigation away from the pivot in the event that you're using this knife in a way that it really shouldn't be used for. I mean, like prying. Those external stop pins, or not external stop pins, but stop pins that brace on the frame will offer a little bit of extra durability, but don't depend on them. I like that they're completely hidden. That's nice. It's really cool. Like I said, this knife does run on bearings and is very, very smooth. Man, this is such a well-made knife. I just don't have any complaints about this. I will point out that if you really want to, you can push your finger in here and about the first 1/4 inch of that blade, you can touch it. But guys, I really have to push my finger in, and I can't imagine, doing something with my hands, whether I'm holding this knife or I'm reaching for it in my pocket or it's on the ground. I can't imagine a situation where my finger digs that far in and actually touches the blade, right? In order to do damage to my finger, I really have to dig that thing in. And about past this point, you can't touch it. Just wanted to be honest and point that out with you guys, but I don't actually consider that a flaw. This is nearly a perfect knife. Everybody's going to have their different preferences on blade shape and grind, but I love how the blade looks. I love how the handle looks. I love the simplicity of this design. I love the function. They managed to make a perfectly functioning tool that's also very, very stylish and shows off some excellent just overall fit and finish details. Fit and finish on this thing is truly perfect. It's flawless. There's not a single thing out of place. It's just, it's so nice. In a lot of ways, this really represents like the peak of where the production knife world is at right now. And I never expected to find it in this knife. I got it out and looked at it and was like, oh my gosh, this is just excellent, And it is. It's excellent. Guys, this is a great knife. I can recommend it if you can find it for $280 or less, but anything more than that, given that it's a limited run knife, a lot of us are going to be dealing with secondary market prices. But anyways, that's going to be pretty much it for today's video. So thanks again, Harry, for letting me take a look at this. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.